so my name is Sheila McBride, and I graduated in 1985 with my undergraduate degree in microbiology. Then I graduated in 2016 with my master's in plant pathology because I love plant pathology so much. Okay, so they asked me to come in and talk about, I work for the Diagnostic lab, and so I'm gonna just talk a little bit about, first of all, what my philosophy is, okay? This is a pretty famous, cantankerous plant pathologist, Dr. Horsfall, if you ever get a chance, if you want to. You should read his little, very short autobiography, but this is my mantra right here. This is my philosophy as a diagnostician in the diagnostic lab. We must be curious to see if what we see is what we seem to see. We must analyze it, open it up, turn it over, look underneath, and look behind. This is exactly what I do in the diagnostic lab when they send in a sample. Okay? They send a sample in to us. We get samples from arborists and homeowners and the greenhouse industry, nurseries, trees. It doesn't matter. All plants, all pathogens is what I look for. And this is perfect. Sample comes in, we open it up, I look at it under the microscope, I turn the leaves or whatever over, front and back. So it's a perfect philosophy for me to have. So I tell it every time. So we are part of the National Plant Diagnostic Network. It was established in 2002 after 9/11. So they worried whether or not terrorists would come in and have bioterrorism like on our crops and that sort of thing. So they decided to form this network. Well, we're part of the Southern Plant Disease Diagnostic Network. So they're all across the United States, but we're in this southern region. And we do, NPDN, we are Star D accredited, so they established a way that if you wanted to be accredited lab, that we had to go through all this rigmarole, oh my God, paperwork. Sometimes think it wasn't worth it. I still sometimes wonder if it's not worth it, but we try to rapidly detect, diagnose, and disseminate information out there to our clientele. We were also, you see this weeds thing down here, pathogens, insects, weeds. We were a part of this whole China seed thing. We were kind of a go-to person to where if somebody contacted us or whatever, we knew exactly where to have them get in contact with the USDA. So that is one of the reasons why we were established for this, one of the main reasons. What is our mission? I pretty much just talked about it, to provide an accurate, timely disease diagnostic support. We also, I didn't mention this, but we also help out the Texas Department of Ag. We also help out USDA as far as helping them out with plant disease. Okay, so I've already talked a little bit about this. We are a fee-based lab, so we do get this minimal fee for what we do, but I also send out a report. You know, we look and we make sure. I make recommendations to the person that sent in the report or sent in the sample. And we do, I love my microscope, okay, so that's like my favorite thing to look at, see if we can see it under the microscope. And y'all are learning how to do that in here right now, right? You're looking at, you know, they've got cultures for you to look at under the microscope. We also have isolation media, and believe me, people think, oh man, I could be a diagnostician. And I love people who say that they want to be a diagnostician or somebody that wants to work in plant pathology, but it does take experience. It's an art and a science, okay? So it does take some, mostly experience to be able to recognize some of the things out there that we see. So I'm going to just briefly, this is my favorite part of being able to come and talk about the diagnostic lab, is what we get to see in the diagnostic lab. And this is also to remind y'all what signs and symptoms, as Dr. Apple is starting, trying to make permanent in your brain, okay, is the difference between signs and symptoms, okay? So in this particular photo right here, we have a plant that's starting to turn black and brown and that sort of thing. What do y'all think, a sign or a symptom? Symptom, yes, symptom. But if we got in this blackberry right here, and you can see all these orange pustules on here, and this is an up close under a dissecting scope. What do you think this is? Sign or symptom? Sign, right? You can just see the pathogen with pretty much on this one in your naked eye. Okay, so that means that you're seeing a sign. So symptom, wilting, dark, necrotic, and then this one you're actually seeing the actual fruiting structures. Here's another one. This one was, I always like to showcase things when I've been out on a drive and I'm like, oh my God, we see a dead tree and we want to know why is that tree dead. So we were doing a survey, a citrus survey. And I know, I get excited, people go, man, it's a dead tree, you should be sad. Well, I'm like, man, what's wrong? So I'm driving a truck over down the street so I can go and see, bless you, so I could see why this tree was dying. And when we got up to it, we saw the fruiting bodies of Ganoderma infecting this tree right here. So this is a basidiomycete. Sign or symptom? Come on, wake up. I know everybody's hungry. Sign, but what is this? Symptom, right. So far away, I'm like, what's wrong with this tree? And I get up close and I get to see it. It's fabulous. It's easy diagnosing. Here's another one. The reason why I showcase cotton root rot is this is what I worked on for my master's, this particular fungus, Phytotoxicopsis omnivora. And so I always have to showcase it. I get like this, but I worked on grapevines. In the grape industry, they were losing a lot of grapevines, especially in the hill country where the really good grapes, well, you got the high plains and you got hill country. And so the grape growers were like, man, what's Texas A&M doing for us grape growers, and how come y'all aren't working on cotton root rot on grapes? Okay, well, you know what, I'm going to change your mind and I'm going to be just as stubborn. So my major professor, Dr. Apple, was like, why are you working on this pathogen that people have been working on for over 100 years and they still haven't got it figured out except for cotton? And I said, well, why don't we take what they just figured out about cotton and apply it to grapes? Ta-da. We did good. We also, you'll notice if you're a sports fan, that in the background right here is AT&T Stadium. The groundskeeper called me, since I had worked on cotton root rot on grapes, and asked if we could please come figure out what's going on with their elm trees. Mrs. Jones loves her elm trees, so took that opportunity to, we don't normally do a whole lot of on-site consultations in the diagnostic lab, but this one was intriguing and of course pretty prestigious client person wanting to know what's wrong. So we went in I should have put the date up here, that was the end of July, and with this lighting it's not very good, but this tree right here was starting to show symptoms. Okay, and we saw some other trees and we were like, man, this is cotton root rot. I think it's cotton root rot. So we took some samples from a different tree. They called us again to come out 2 weeks later. That's what cotton root rot does to a tree. This is the same two trees right up here. 2 weeks. So when somebody says, oh my God, my tree died suddenly, as a diagnostician, that doesn't happen very much, okay? It usually is very gradual. Most pathogens are gradual, except for cotton root rot. And this is what I saw under the microscope. I usually try to show pictures under the microscope. Here's another good sample that we got in from a grower that has 3 greenhouses, okay, of basil. For him, this is what he was seeing. It's chlorotic, okay, that's not normal. This necrotic spots on the leaves are not normal. He kept spraying and kept spraying. Now, you know, this guy right here sold stuff to H-E-B and major grocery stores for fresh basil, okay? And he thought he knew what it was. And he sprayed whatever he could, and he sprayed, and it wasn't going away. So he finally resolved to sending in a sample. By the time he sent in a sample, he lost all 3 greenhouses. All 3. I always tell people, you may think you know what it is when I give talks like this, but you just wasted your time, your money, and now you just lost all 3 greenhouses. If you would have sent in a sample and got a confirmation as to what was causing the problem, you might have been able to save your greenhouses. He literally had to disinfect and sanitize his all 3 greenhouses, and he lost his contracts. Okay. So this is downy mildew. So I always say powdery is on top, downy is on bottom. So if you turn the leaf, you got to look at it on the underside of the leaf to see the pathogen. Okay, so that's why he wasn't paying any attention. He just saw the symptoms on the surface and never turned that leaf over. You can, this is with your naked eye picture, and as I got up closer with the dissecting scope, and then here are the spores. Okay, this is an oomycete. Okay, so you can't culture this. So this is the only way we can confirm this particular. It's always sad. But I always like to be able to help. This is on campus, on main campus, powdery mildew, so it's on the outside, on the surface. You get to see. So if you get to see this right here, sign or symptom, y'all are going to ace the test, right, whenever it comes to sign or symptoms on the test. Sign or symptom? Sign. Sign. You're seeing the pathogen. This is what I see under the microscope when I take a tape mount. Okay. We get a lot of turf grass samples. Constant, Texas. People love their St. Augustine grass lawns. Oh yes, that actually causes problems with the trees and the rest of the landscape if they overwater too much. But there you go, brown patch. This is one that is a spring and a fall pathogen. So in the summer, these circular symptoms will go away. So people go, oh, well, it was just something. Okay, so in the spring, let's just say in the spring they see this. In the summer, it goes away, and they're like, okay. But in the fall, you know what happens in the fall if they don't treat this? It starts out, you know, this big, and then in the fall it'll get this big. Then it'll go away because wintertime comes around, and in the spring, if it's still not treated, it keeps growing, okay, and gets bigger. Circles get bigger. Entomosporium, you'll see this all over campus. Anytime you see an Indian hawthorn, you're pretty much going to see what people think are decorative or part of the plant is this beautiful red lesion, okay? This is what we see under the microscope. It's one of my faves. Entomosporium, so they think it looks like, when they named it, it looks like an insect, okay? Ento meaning insect. This is a rapid defoliator. A lot of times we don't worry about foliar diseases on trees or plants. It makes it look ugly sometimes. But this particular one right here will completely defoliate So it is a very important one on Indian hawthorns. There's viruses, and y'all are going to probably talk about viruses. Do maybe set up something virusy, okay, as far as, I don't know, immunostrips, I don't know what y'all use, or ELISAs or something like that. But we got the famous tobacco mosaic virus that goes to other things. It's not just tobacco. Viruses are named for the first plant that it's described on. Okay, so this one was described on tobacco, but it also gets on coleus. We got impatiens necrotic spot virus. Again, you know, plant pathologists name it like it is, right? And this is on a calancho, but you got your necrotic spot. Okay, but you have these rings around there, and it's very distinct. Y'all learning anything? Okay. Okay. And we've got hypoxylin canker on an oak here that used to be right outside the Syntec, and it's gone. It's dead. These are a whole bunch of spores. Like if you were to take your finger and do like that, your finger would have like all these green spores on there. Sign or symptom? Sign. The symptom is that the bark comes off, okay? Whoops. I always forget those right there. Cedar hawthorn rust. Okay. Y'all get very prepared. This is going to be later in 301, okay? Rusts are hard, okay? Dr. Apple loves his life cycles. Yes. Now this is, y'all are different though. And I'm not really sure exactly how he's going to handle these things with tests and all that. But this is just a warning, okay? Dr. Apple loves his life cycles. Rusts are hard life cycles to figure out, okay? Because they have, yeah. In this particular case, we have cedar. Here's your cedar. And then you have your hawthorn rust. So most rusts have to have two hosts. Normally, there's always exceptions out there. One host is affected more than the other host. Okay? In this particular case, it doesn't really do very much damage to the cedar. But what it does do to the hawthorns is totally defoliate and will kill them over time. Because it defoliates, and then it tries to come back, and then it uses up all its sugars and all that sort of thing, so it has a hard time keeping up with the disease. But just remember that, okay? Say, I remember Sheila McBride telling us about it. Because y'all are going to ace this, right? We got plant parasitic nematodes that happen underground. People don't always think about what's happening underground. Stuff that's happening up here on the surface, most of the time there's something happening underground, okay? I don't know if I'll guest lecture. I usually guest lecture on the nematodes because that's where my plant pathology started. I worked for a nematologist in the department over 30 years ago, and this was his baby right here, plant parasitic nematodes. It's an animal, okay? Nematodes are in the animal kingdom, okay? It's one of the only ones besides humans in plant pathology. And then we got our plant parasites, okay? And we got mistletoe. Most everybody knows mistletoe. We got oak wilt in Texas, so if you're driving anywhere in the hill country and go, man, what is going on with all those live oak trees? You'll see some of these ranges where the live oak trees are just dead, like dead. And all through the whole range, it's dead. It's most likely oak wilt. And y'all get into, a lot of these y'all will get into with Dr. Apple. We have bacterial leaf scorch. This is vectored. This is a vector-borne disease. So leafhoppers, mostly, transmit the bacteria from an infected plant to a non-infected plant. And there's multiple hosts, and there's multiple subspecies of Xylella. This is Xylella fastidiosa. But we get this scorch, so bacterial leaf scorch. So we get this scorching. And it doesn't matter what the host is, it causes the same thing. Xylella, meaning that it inhibits the xylem. Okay. if something's clogging up the xylem, what's happening? Water isn't getting to the outside of the leaves, okay? So it's getting a scorched look, or almost like a drought look. Okay, I can't do it alone. A lot of these people, I gotta update this. One of my passions is to have undergraduates work in the diagnostic lab if we have a position open for an undergraduate. I only have 3 people left in this picture. Well, me, but I've got Kevin, Madison, Courtney. She takes care of the logging in samples, so all the samples get unique numbers, and that's it. She didn't do very well with COVID. She had to go back home. Hannah, one of the things that I love about having undergraduates is instilling my passion for plant pathology, and then they go, I'm going to go on and get my higher education in plant pathology. Hannah is at UC Riverside. She got accepted this year to UC Riverside, so I'm excited for her. She's hanging in there. She goes, graduate school's hard, she says. Kat is also pursuing her PhD in plant pathology. She's at Michigan. She just started as well. Lindsay, she can't decide, but she's going back to school. And then Kendall's doing consulting. So I can't do it by myself in the lab. Everybody goes, how do you do it? Here's our microscopes. I've got an undergraduate, well, she's former undergraduate, looking at samples under the microscope. With oak wilt and some of our other pathogens, we try to culture them so that we can know. My big thing for me, and it kind of, my boss goes, Sheila, why do you, I have to confirm it. I have to see it under the microscope. I have to make sure that it's that. I don't do it just by field diagnosing. Now, I can look at a plant or be out in the field and go, have possibilities, okay, because there's so many reasons why a leaf scorches out, okay, it's not just one thing. So you take it back and you start running tests on it. We also have PCR, where we've got our guy right here, we call it Eve, right? It looks like the robot on Wall-E, so we named some of our equipment just to have fun. This is new to us, so we're doing real-time PCR, and you can see, you know, nowadays with all COVID and everything, I'm like, man, we could almost be set up, right? This looks like what you see on the news, right? Some of these pieces of equipment and that sort of thing, although we'd have to be, I don't know, one of these biohazard 3 levels or whatever to do it, but we do have the same techniques that they use for COVID. They say the quick one, you know, the swabs, we can do the same thing with plant pathogens as far as testing as well. In fact, here's an ELISA right here, and this is the same thing as some of the ways that they're testing COVID. And then even beyond being actually physically in the clinic, we do a lot of, well, I'm going to just be present and positive, okay? Because this is the sort of situation that I love, and doing Zoom is hard, and my boss says, because I'm like real stiff in front of the camera, and he goes, you need to do like you do, and use your hands like you always do, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll try. But we do site visits, so sometimes we go out there and do site visits. We hold classes for the Texas Department of Ag inspectors. So this particular one was where they were trying to learn their species of palms. So we've got a whole bunch of palms. We have international people come in who, in their country, they would like to set up a diagnostic lab similar to ours. And so they'll come in and do, where they do a tour in the diagnostic lab to kind of see if they can bring back what they've learned over here back to their country. We do Master Gardeners. It's part of Extension, where people decide that they want to know more about plants and horticulture and that sort of thing. Well, one chapter in their learning is to learn about plant pathogens. So we go and we do those sort of things as well. Here's our website. It's an old picture of our website, but every time I try to do another one, it changes, so I thought, well, what the heck, we'll just keep it the way it is. But if you want to learn more about us, we are going to try, I'm going to try, Dr. Africa's never put a video in your presentation. It never works. And so the first time I did, I was like, no, I'm going to change his mind. And the first time I did it, it didn't work, so I had to get with somebody. And he's like, what did I tell you? It doesn't work. You put a video in there, a link, you can't make it work. And I'm like, okay, well, I've learned how to do it, except nowadays, as long as you're connected, I used to just copy and paste and put it in and have it already up. So we also do what Wednesdays. So this is the mannequin challenge. Tracy, she went to University of Arkansas and is now at Tennessee getting her This was the first shot too. I was so excited for us. Everybody just held perfectly still. And our goofy Mandy, love her. She's not there anymore either. Anyway, go to our, if you want to see more, they can be a lot of fun. Oh, here's our mystery seed packet. How do we escape? Escape. Escape. Right? Escape. Anyway, they can be fun. One of my last mantras, it's a medical doctor, okay? As to disease, make a habit. I'm sorry, somebody was like, I always worry about my phone calls. As to diseases, make a habit of two things, to help or at least to do no harm. Okay, so this is, like I said, it's a medical doctor who's coming up with this right here. But I thought it kind of applied to plant pathology as well, right? Okay. Questions? Nobody's asked me any questions. Any questions? We've got two different kinds of daughter right here. Okay? We've got giant Asian daughter, an invasive Dr. Apple. Not very often do you have a eradication of a plant pathogen. You just end up having to go, well, now we've got to deal with another new plant pathogen. Well, and it is a plant pathogen. And it was starting to spread in Houston and killing some of their trees. So giant Asian daughter, D-O-D-D-E-R, is very bad. Okay? But just the regular old daughter, and if you live anywhere near Houston and you drive towards Houston, you'll see this bright yellow. You're like, whoa, my gosh, what is that bright yellow? That's just outside of, or this side of, well, in between Hempstead and Spring. Let's just say that. Okay. It doesn't bother the wildflower. I call it wildflower daughter so much as the giant Asian daughter. And they did eradicate it. So that was a good thing. Yeah. Any questions? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to come talk to you. I really, truly enjoy it. Okay, I think somebody else is going to come do a